let's talk about the Canon EOS RP. While balancing on a slackline. So during my initial stages of research, this camera was hated on a lot. It seemed most of that was surrounding the fact that it wasn't released with 24p. Now, that's not make or break for me. I do use it, but in all honesty, I'd probably be just as happy with 30 frames per second. That said, after about a year, or whenever it was when they introduced the firmware to give the camera 24p, it pretty much 180 degrees changed the perspective of the camera in the people's eye. And so once I started coming across those newer reviews, I found that they were all positive, and for good reason. After about a month of having this camera, I can say that it's been one of the most fun experiences I've ever had with gadgets or technology in general. It's so user-friendly. The menus are very intuitive, very well laid out, very customizable. It's got that fully articulating screen so that I can frame my shot, like right now, for example, even though it's quite difficult on a slackline trying to stare into a camera lens. But that's what makes this review a little different. The autofocus is exceptional. The battery life is good enough. I've got 2 batteries and I've never needed more. So, you know, if you're gonna go on like a 5-day camping trip or something, maybe bring several batteries. But for the average user, which I would consider myself the average YouTuber, 2 batteries has been perfect. And so I'll always have 1 battery in the camera and then 1 on the charger. And I've yet to have an issue with the battery life. And typically 1 battery will last me for everything that I need. I absolutely love the ergonomics. I love the way this camera feels in my hand. I love the lenses. The new RF line of lenses is super sexy. And so I'm really grateful that they have the EOS RP, because it's a really affordable way to get into the RF line, especially with the new lenses they're coming out with. Like, I bought this camera brand new with a lens for $1,000. They'd recently released the RF 24-105 F4-7.1 kit lens, and it went on sale everywhere, even on the Canon website, for $1,000 with the camera. So I was fortunate enough to pick up that kit, and we upgraded from the Sony a6000. So that's been a massive increase in user experience and capability. And it also afforded us the opportunity to invest in some glass, because the camera was, you know, $1,000 less than the other full frame options that we were looking at. And so we picked up the 15-35 wide angle zoom lens, f2.8. I'm not entirely sure I need that lens. I'm not entirely sure I need that bright of an aperture. It's pretty big, it's pretty expensive, it's pretty heavy, it's pretty awesome. But if they come out with like a wide range zoom at an f4 aperture for the RF line, I might actually sell that lens. Only the time will tell. But I definitely don't feel attached to using like the L series glass. And I'm gonna be traveling a lot. I'm gonna be carrying it in a bag a lot. And so having the weight savings from a slightly smaller aperture is very appealing to me. And also my experience with the 24-105 F4-7.1, this new kit lens has really been able to do everything that I needed to do. So like right now, for example, I'm outside, I'm in the shade, I'm at 100 ISO, doubling my frame rate at 1/50 shutter, and it's an f4 aperture at 24 millimeters. And I think it looks great. Everything is like very well exposed, and it's very bright, even in indoor use. This lens really is everything that we need. Now, there are some times when having that wider aperture, with that wider focal length, like the 15mm, is super helpful. And one of the reasons I did get that lens is because we're gonna be living in a van full time in the near future, and I really wanted something that could capture the essence of that and capture a lot of that space. And so that's why I decided to invest in that L series wide angle. You know, honestly, it's probably more because it was the only wide angle that was offered for the RF line. So again, if they come out with an F4 wide angle zoom lens, or maybe even a prime, you know, if they come out with like a 16mm prime, I might just switch it up for that. So we'll see, but I will say the 15-35 has been just an amazing lens to use. Now, I don't have a ton of experience and things to compare it to. I have been able to compare it to this current lens with a smaller aperture, and it does have better low light performance. It really starts to come through indoors at night, or you know, outdoors in the city trying to do street photography. It definitely helps to have like a 2.8 or brighter aperture, but for 90% of what I'll ever need a camera lens to do, an f4 aperture or even slightly smaller, I think is going to be more than enough. But all in all, the Canon EOS RP is a huge win. I think it's probably one of the best cameras that you can buy for the money right now. A full frame camera for $1,000 that was made in the last year. I mean, it's really good. It's really, really good. And they're coming out with a bunch of RF glass. They're announcing it on July 9th. I'm probably gonna pick up the 85mm f2 because I really love macro. And I'm also starting to get some work as a photographer, as a videographer, doing headshots and portraits. And so that 85mm is gonna be key for that. But yeah, Canon EOS RP, highly recommend it. User interface is perfect. The buttons, the layout, the touchscreen, I mean, it's all perfect. It really is. I've got nothing bad to say about this camera. It literally does everything that I need it to do. I wanted full frame, I wanted new, and I wanted entry-level features that I wasn't paying $2,000 to $3,000 for the body, and that's exactly what I got. And it also opens you up to be able to use the RF glass, which, you know, I think is probably the best glass in the game right now. And when you can save $1,000 or $2,000 in the body, because you don't really need 4K. I mean, 99% of people have no real use for 4K. The large majority of all the content created for YouTube is viewed in 1080p at the highest. I bet the average is closer to 480p though, much lower, you know? Unless you're like on a Wi-Fi or something like that, you're typically gonna have a very low quality image. And so there's absolutely no reason to burden yourself with the expenses of having a lot of storage and processing speed to be able to edit 4K footage. I mean, 1080p is gonna be good, and I think the best for a long time. Now, if you're making movies or films, or you know, you're really trying to capture the epic nature of things, if you're like doing travel documentaries, or you know, you wanna like future-proof your content, I definitely think 4K is a good option. But think long and hard before you succumb to the internet hype of feeling like you need 4K, because that was almost me. It took me like more than a month of research before I really started to come around to the idea of 1080 being okay. But when I first started looking at cameras and first started getting into this, I thought 4K was a must, and I wouldn't even consider anything that didn't have 4K. And I was following a lot of the elitist creators that pretty much preached 4K. Although I will say, I started to come across some other ones that seemed, you know, much wiser, and they taught me that 1080p was going to be more than enough for everything that I needed to do. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Canon EOS RP on a slackline, and I definitely recommend this camera. I recommend the RF glass, and I recommend that you buy it as a kit with the 24-105 f4-7.1 lens. I think it's, I mean, literally, I think it's probably the best value for the quality that you're getting. And the user experience is just second to none. So Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed what you see, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have a Canon EOS RP, or if you're thinking about getting a camera, I'd love to start a conversation. This is a very new channel, so all the personal interactions are very valuable to me. And while I have the ability to give my time to people and really connect, I really want to do that and emphasize that. Throw us a like. It helps the algorithm so much. It helps our channel grow. And if you want to see more videos on camera gear, adventures, van life, slack life, highlining, all that stuff, healthy living, fitness, all these things we're really going to embody, just really our lifestyle in our channel. We want to share that with you. And yeah, enjoy your life, and thanks for tuning in.